Hey there. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. What you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's the unraveling of a man who thought silence could keep a marriage alive. I was wrong. And it all started with a sound I can't unhear, her laugh. Let me paint the scene for you. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. No shouting. No storming out. No shattered dishes. I didn't catch her tangled in bed with someone. There were no hotel receipts. No lipstick-stained collars. Just one perfectly timed laugh. She laughed when I asked her if she still loved me. That's it. A laugh. You think betrayal is a punch in the gut. But no. It's colder than that. It's her looking you in the eye and chuckling like you're the butt of a joke she's been telling behind your back for months. And in that moment, standing in our dimly lit kitchen with her half-eaten Thai takeout between us, I realized I was already gone. She'd deleted me emotionally long before I found the courage to even ask the question. But this story is not about heartbreak. It's about what came after that smirk. She thought I'd cry. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd sleep in the guest room and give her space, like I always did. But she underestimated something crucial. I wasn't angry. I was done. That night I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors. I started writing a list. Not a revenge list. Not a pros and cons breakdown. A checklist. Freeze the joint account. Remove my name from her car insurance. Schedule the locksmith. Dig up the documents I once labeled just in case and never thought I'd use. I sat at our dining table, across from her as she scrolled on her phone, smiling at whoever was texting her. And I wrote with the calm of a man who had already disappeared inside. The next morning, I made coffee. I didn't say a word when she stepped out of the bedroom wearing the hoodie of a band I hated. One I knew wasn't mine. She yawned, asked if I could pick up more oat milk. I said, sure. I was leaving in 10 minutes anyway. That's when she looked up and said, "You're not seriously still upset about last night, right? Don't be so sensitive, Lowell. It's not like I cheated." And she laughed again. That second laugh? That was the matchstick. So I left. And I left everything in motion. And in the 7 days that followed, I did something she never expected. I wiped that smirk off her face, without raising my voice, without touching a single thing she loved, and without even being in the room. If you want to know what I did, the most insulting thing wasn't that she cheated. It was how small she made it seem, like it was a joke, a throwaway line in some sitcom she'd been rehearsing behind my back. I realized she never thought I'd do anything. I was safe. I was soft. I was the wallpaper of her life. Always there, always blending into the background. That made what I did next even more satisfying. I didn't leave with a bang. I left with a whisper. The same morning she laughed and told me not to be so sensitive. I kissed her on the cheek and said I'd be back later. She smiled like she won. I walked straight past the garbage bins, got in my car, and drove 4 towns over to a little bank where she didn't know I had an account. You see, years ago when my uncle passed and left me some inheritance, I split it. Half with her, half into a savings account she never asked about. She thought I spent it all on fixing the roof. Truth is, the roof still leaks. I moved the money, every last cent. From there, I called a locksmith and scheduled him for Friday. I didn't want her locked out right away. No, timing mattered. I needed her comfortable, unaware, still laughing. By noon, I was at the DMV, removing myself from her car title. She never paid the insurance anyway, I did. I made sure they sent her the updated info, effective immediately. But the hardest part? That was when I walked into my office, looked around at 12 years of working remote from that house, and quietly packed it into 2 boxes. I didn't even take my framed photo of us at the Grand Canyon. Just left it face down on the desk. That night, I came back like nothing happened. I even brought her a stupid bottle of red wine and said, "Thought we could have a quiet evening." She said, "Ah, look who's trying to win me back." I smiled, just like she did. We watched a show. I pretended to care. We went to bed. She scrolled on her phone with her back turned to me, and I stared at the ceiling thinking, 2 more days. Just 2. The next day, I pretended to be sick. Told my boss I needed a long weekend. Mallory left for work in a rush, kissing me like it was routine, and that moment, that brief kiss, felt like someone touching me with gloves on. No warmth, no connection, just performance. While she was at work, I moved everything out. I had already signed a 6-month lease on a furnished rental 30 minutes away. Nothing fancy, just enough space to breathe. Moose came with me. She didn't even notice the dog food bag was missing when she got home. She just assumed he was at my mom's. I left the fridge full, the thermostat set, the lights on. Everything as she expected it. But on Friday, when she came home and turned her key, it didn't fit. I wasn't there to see it. But I did see the notification. Front door. Jammed access attempt. 6:43 p.m. Then came the call. Then 10 more. Then a voicemail that started with, "Are you serious?" and ended with, "You better call me back, Lowell." I didn't. Instead, I texted one thing. "You laughed. So I left. Let's keep it funny." She didn't laugh after that. She begged. She called from her friend's phone. Then from a blocked number. Then came the emails. Some apologetic. Some angry. Some accusing me of ruining everything over nothing. That last one made me laugh. Nothing? I wasn't trying to hurt her. I wasn't even trying to humiliate her. I just needed her to feel it. To understand what it's like when someone quietly stops choosing you. And here's the best part. She still doesn't know how much I actually know. She thinks it was just a suspicion. A gut feeling. She has no idea about the email. No clue I saw the messages between her and G. She doesn't know I've already contacted a lawyer and that the documents are almost ready. She's playing catch-up. And for once, I'm ahead. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. When someone unexpected reached out to me with information that flipped everything upside down. I was finally starting to sleep. Not great sleep, but the kind where I wasn't staring at the ceiling anymore, rehearsing arguments I'd never win. I even made it 2 whole days without checking her social media. That was progress for me. I thought I was entering the calm after the storm. I thought I'd done enough. I had no idea the storm was just changing direction. It was Sunday morning. Quiet. I was halfway through pouring cereal when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, assuming it was her again using someone else's line. But then it buzzed again. And again, until I finally picked up, half expecting to hear her crying or screaming or both. Instead, I got this calm, unfamiliar voice. "Hi, I know this is weird, but are you Lowell, Mallory's husband?" The voice was male, gentle, measured, no hostility, no sarcasm. I almost said no out of habit, like maybe if I denied it, I could avoid whatever wrecking ball was coming. "Who is this?" I asked, instantly defensive. "I think we should talk. It's about Mallory. And me." Now look, my heart didn't just sink. It broke the elevator cable and plunged 20 floors. Because I knew this wasn't her cousin or a coworker. This was him. This was G. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He sighed and said, "Look, I know what she told you. And I know you probably hate me. But you need to know I didn't know you existed." That stopped me cold. Didn't know I existed? I couldn't speak. He went on. "She told me she was divorced. Has been for a while. Said she was dealing with her ex-husband's emotional dependence and was just trying to start over." I nearly dropped the phone. "She showed me photos," he continued, "of herself alone in your house. No wedding photos. No pictures of you. She said you were unstable, controlling, that you wouldn't let her move on. So I backed off a few weeks ago." I leaned against the wall, heart pounding, cereal forgotten on the counter. "I only found out the truth when I bumped into your dog. Moose, right? At the vet. She never told me she shared a dog. And the receptionist said something about Mr. and Mrs. Carter. That's when it clicked. I did some digging. And I'm sorry, man. She played both of us. This stranger, this supposed homewrecker, was apologizing to me. That was the moment I realized something no one wants to admit out loud. I wasn't even her main lie. I was just another thread in the web she spun around herself. And here's the kicker. Before he hung up, he said, "By the way, I'm not the only one. Not the only one. That sentence hit harder than anything Mallory ever said. Because I'd braced myself for one betrayal. One man. One stupid, tragic mistake. But multiple? Suddenly everything made more sense. The late nights, the new perfume, the gym membership she never used, the strange calls from numbers saved under fake names like dentist and roof guy. She hadn't just strayed. She'd built a whole second life and was just waiting for mine to collapse under its own silence. I sat there for hours after that call. No music. No TV. Just me and Moose curled up in a place that used to be my safe zone and now felt like a forgotten crime scene. Every memory in that house felt stained. And that night I didn't sleep at all. Not because I was hurt, but because for the first time in years, I was furious. Not yelling into the void angry. Not crying in the shower broken. This was different. This was clarity. Mallory had made a career out of turning people into props. She thought I was just another one. A background character in her personal drama. A weak, whiny husband who'd go down with the ship and never ask who poked the holes. But I was about to do something I never thought I was capable of. Not revenge. Not violence. Something worse for a person like her. Exposure. And I already knew where to start. I didn't sleep. Not even for a second. The kind of insomnia I had that night didn't come from caffeine or noise. It came from knowing too much and still feeling helpless. I kept replaying that stranger's voice in my head. Not the words, but the calmness. Like he'd already gone through his storm and left me stranded in mine. But the one line that echoed louder than the rest? I'm not the only one. That stuck like a thorn in my brain. Because it told me two devastating truths at once. One, that my wife wasn't who I thought she was. And two, that I might never really know just how deep her betrayal went. But I didn't need to know everything. I just needed the right people to start asking questions. That's when the idea came. Mallory's world wasn't made of secrets. It was made of carefully staged performances. She was an image builder. Someone who crafted every detail of her life like a social media post. Her coworkers thought she was strong, independent, a survivor of a toxic relationship. Her family thought I was distant and awkward but stable, so they tolerated me. Her friends? Well, they never liked me much to begin with. Probably because I wasn't the one paying for drinks or booking group trips to Tulum. But none of them knew what I knew now, so I didn't go nuclear. I didn't post screenshots or videos or start some dramatic campaign. I did something much quieter and far more dangerous. I invited them to ask their own questions. It started with an email. Just one. To her boss. I wrote, "Hi. I'm reaching out to clarify something Mallory may have mentioned. We're not divorced. We were still married until very recently. I'm only contacting you because I believe it's important you're aware of her conduct during work-related trips. That's it. No accusations. No screenshots. Just enough smoke to make someone look for fire." Then I sent one to her sister. "Hey. I'm not sure what Mallory told you, but I thought you should know I've moved out. We're separating. I'd appreciate if you didn't involve me in family functions moving forward. Thanks." That was the match. By the end of the day, I had 3 missed calls from her sister, a blocked number voicemail that said, "What the hell is going on?" and an email from someone in her office saying, "I didn't realize you two were still together." She hadn't just lied to me, she'd lied to everyone. And slowly, like dominoes falling in a line I never had to touch, her little empire started to shake. I didn't even need to expose her. I just pulled the thread. The truth unraveled itself. But the moment that really did it, that came the next morning. I woke up to another unknown number calling. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. A voice on the other end, female this time, said, "You don't know me, but I work with Mallory. We met at the conference in Nashville. I saw your email, and I had to say something." I sat up. Every nerve in my body tensed. She went on. "She told everyone you were her ex, said you were manipulative, that you used money to control her. I feel sick now. We defended her. We thought you were some monster keeping her trapped." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't used to strangers feeling sorry for me. She paused. then said something that still makes my skin crawl. And, just so you're aware, she was seeing one of the interns, a 24-year-old. She used to call him her little secret. There it was. Another lie I hadn't uncovered. Another layer she'd buried beneath fake stories and calculated smirks. And suddenly, it wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was reputation warfare. I had been cast as the villain in her story, the clingy, broken ex she needed saving from. And the worst part? I played the part for years without knowing the script. But now I had the truth. And people were finally listening. So I took a deep breath. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I simply wrote the one message that would bring all the cards down at once. It was addressed to Mallory. You told them I was the villain, but your story's falling apart. I won't need to say a word. You did this to yourself. I hit send. She didn't reply, but that night, she showed up at my door. And what happened next? You won't believe what she tried to do. She didn't knock right away. I watched her silhouette through the curtains for a full 2 minutes before she even raised her hand. Just standing there, perfectly still, like she was calculating the version of herself she needed to become before I opened the door. I knew that stance. That was the same posture she used whenever she was caught off guard and needed to spin her way back into control. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Part of me wanted to leave her out there, stranded in silence. But I had to know. I had to hear what version of the truth she was going to perform for me now. So I opened the door. Mallory smiled. Not the sweet, genuine smile I used to know, but the kind that hides sharp teeth. She was holding a paper bag with coffee and what she knew were my favorite muffins. From that cafe I used to drive 40 minutes to on Sundays just because she loved the lavender ones. "Hi," she said, like we hadn't gone nuclear 2 weeks ago. I thought we could talk. I stared at her. No words, just stared. "I'm not here to fight," she added quickly. "I'm here to fix this." Fix this? I almost laughed in her face, but I was too exhausted to give her the satisfaction. I stepped aside, not to let her in, but to lean against the doorframe, blocking the entrance. She understood the message. She didn't move. "I made mistakes," she began, her voice soft now. "I was confused. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just hurting and you weren't there." There it was. The first strike. Blame by omission. It was my fault because I wasn't emotionally present. Because I didn't read her mind or compete with the attention she craved from strangers. "Do you want an apology?" she asked. "Because I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry I hurt you. But you hurt me too, Lowell. You shut down years ago. You became invisible. I felt alone every single day. I should have walked back inside. Closed the door. Let her talk to the wood. But some sick part of me needed to hear the full speech. I only started seeing someone because I thought it was over between us," she continued, voice shaking just enough to seem real. "But when you disappeared, when you locked me out, left me nothing, I realized I wasn't ready to lose you. I finally spoke. You didn't lose me," I said. "You replaced me. You rewrote me. You built an entire story where I was the villain. And now that people are seeing through it, you're here trying to reframe the ending." She blinked. That was the first crack. "I didn't want it to come to this," she said. "I wanted to fix it quietly. But now people are asking questions and they're dragging your name too, Lowell. You think this is just about me?" And there it was, the pivot. She wasn't just trying to win me back. She was here to control the fallout. Because her empire wasn't just cracking. It was crumbling. "Tell me what you want," she said. "You want me to admit it? Fine. I cheated. I lied. I told people things that weren't fair. But if this all goes public, if my boss fires me, if my family turns on me, what does that make you? Vindictive? Petty? You really want to be that guy?" That guy. I swallowed hard. Because for years, I'd built my whole identity around not being that guy. The one who lashes out. The one who breaks things. The one who becomes unrecognizable just to get even. But now I saw the game clearly. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to threaten gently. To paint me into a corner using guilt and optics and soft-spoken shame. And she almost succeeded. until she made the mistake of asking me one final question. Do you still love me? I didn't flinch. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, I don't even know who you are anymore. Her lips parted just slightly. The performance broke for a second. The silence between us filled with something neither of us could script. She left the coffee on the porch and walked away. No tears, no begging, just silence. But when I went back inside, something was waiting for me in my inbox. A message from someone else, a woman, and what she told me about Mallory. That changed everything. When I first saw the name in my inbox, I thought it was spam. Some unfamiliar sender, no subject line, and just a single sentence preview. I know what she did to you, and you're not alone. I almost deleted it. I didn't want more drama. I didn't want another person validating how broken I felt. But something made me click. Curiosity. Or maybe some tiny part of me still hoping this whole thing could make sense. The woman's name was Tessa. She introduced herself in the first line. I'm not reaching out to cause more pain, Lowell. I'm reaching out because I was Mallory's friend. At least I thought I was. That froze me. She continued, explaining how she and Mallory had worked together briefly at a design co-op about 4 years ago. They became close, but Tessa started noticing patterns. Emotional manipulation, gaslighting, cutting off mutual friends, and finally something else. She used me, Tessa wrote, not just for comfort, not just for attention. She used me physically. She told me it was just us, just an experiment to heal from a breakup. But she was still with you the whole time. I felt the air leave my lungs. I wasn't ready for that. I had braced myself for more men, more lies, more stories from other guys like, gee. But this? I had never even imagined that possibility. Not because I thought Mallory was incapable of it, but because I didn't think I was important enough for her to go to such lengths to hide something like that. Tessa didn't stop there. She'd tell me how she felt trapped in your marriage, she wrote, that you were dull, distant, emotionally fragile. She painted herself as this survivor who was rebuilding after a lifetime of disappointment. I believed her. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was charming, magnetic. She made you sound like a walking apology. I wanted to throw something. Not at her, not at Tessa, but at the version of me Mallory had paraded around to gain sympathy. I was angry not just at the lies, but at how easily people had believed them. Tessa had receipts, screenshots, one photo that made my blood run cold. Mallory and her, kissing in my kitchen. The calendar on the fridge behind them clearly marked our wedding anniversary. It wasn't just infidelity. It was mockery. I sat there shaking, the room spinning in quiet fury. Moose rested his head on my foot like he could feel the tremor inside me. Tessa's email ended with something I didn't expect. I've since cut her off. I realized too late who she really is. I just thought you deserved to know the full story. If you ever need someone to confirm the truth, legally or personally, I'm here. You're not crazy. She's just very, very good at what she does. I stared at that last line for a long time. You're not crazy. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear that until someone finally said it. Mallory had been playing a longer game than I thought. She didn't just betray me physically. She didn't just lie to the people around us. She rewrote reality and handed it out to anyone who would listen. And I stood there for years, quietly folding myself smaller and smaller to fit into the version of the story she was selling. But not anymore. I didn't write back to Tessa right away. I sat on the email for 2 days. Let the weight of it settle. Let it burn the last threads of sympathy I still had for Mallory. And then I forwarded the screenshots to my lawyer. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. About reclaiming my name from the shadow of the character she cast me as. But as I began to pull away from her entirely, Mallory wasn't done. Because a few days later, she made her boldest move yet. She showed up again. This time not to apologize. Not to manipulate. This time, she brought someone with her. Someone I never expected to see standing on my front porch. And what he said changed everything again. I hadn't seen Mallory in a week. Not since the doorstep confrontation where she tried to rewrite history using coffee and emotional guilt. I figured after that, she'd vanish, slither back into her curated life and quietly rebuild the image I'd started to crumble. But I was wrong. 1 week to the day after her last visit, my doorbell rang again. I wasn't expecting anyone. Moose barked once and then fell strangely silent, like he sensed this wasn't a delivery or a neighbor. I looked through the peephole, half expecting her again. What I saw made my blood pressure spike. It was her. And next to her, standing like some unwanted statue brought back from a failed yard sale, was her father, Douglas Weaver, a man who hadn't said more than 20 words to me in a decade of family gatherings. A man who looked at me like I was the seat filler in a life Mallory deserved better than. And now, here he was on my porch, arms crossed, jaw set like he was about to fix something with his presence alone. I opened the door slowly, cautious but curious. Mallory gave me this hollow smile, like she was hoping to charm her way back in before the argument even began. "Lowell," she said, like it was a truce flag. "Can we talk? My dad just wants to clear the air." Clear the air. The audacity. As if I'd been the one pumping poison into our lives. Douglas didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped forward like he owned the property and launched straight into it. "I don't know what you think you're doing, son," he said, "but Mallory's life is falling apart. Her job's hanging by a thread. Her mother's in tears. And people are saying you're the one stirring the pot." I blinked slowly, processing every syllable. He continued, "I don't know what you hope to accomplish by dragging this into the public. But enough's enough. We're here to ask you to stop. Just stop. Don't make this uglier than it already is." Mallory stood beside him, silent but wide-eyed, like she was letting him be the battering ram so she could play the role of wounded daughter afterward. I looked at them both almost calmly. "You think I dragged this into the public?" I asked. "You think I made this ugly?" Douglas leaned in. "You made her look like a monster, Lowell. That's not love. That's revenge." I could feel the heat rising behind my eyes, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I turned and picked up a folder from the entry table, the one my lawyer had compiled with the printed emails, texts, and yes, the photo Tessa had sent me. I held it out like I was handing over a menu. "I made her look like what she is," I said. "You want to see the full picture? Here. Start with what she told her coworker about me. Then read how she described your wife. Then maybe you'll understand why I left without a word." He didn't take the folder. He stared at it like it might burn him. Mallory flinched. "I'm not playing defense anymore," I added. "I'm not soft. I'm not silent. I'm not your emotional punching bag. Your daughter didn't just cheat. She lied. She staged an entire life built on sympathy and drama. And if she's crumbling now, that's not my doing. That's hers." For the first time, Douglas didn't have a snappy comeback. His expression changed, just slightly, from anger to something closer to confusion. Maybe even doubt. Mallory stepped forward. "Lowell, please," she said, her voice cracking now. "This doesn't have to end like this. We can fix it. We can go to counseling, take time." "No," I interrupted, steady. "We can't. Because I didn't just lose a wife. I lost years of my life trying to love someone who never really existed." That silence after those words felt heavier than anything. Eventually, they left. No shouting. No final plea. Just quiet footsteps and the closing of a car door. And as I watched them drive away, something hit me. I wasn't broken anymore. I was finally awake. But just as I thought this chapter was ending, another message popped up on my phone. This time from a name I did recognize. Someone Mallory had always said she barely spoke to. Someone I'd written off long ago as irrelevant. Her ex. And what he revealed in his message. It rewrote everything I thought I knew about how far back this betrayal went. His message wasn't long. Just 3 short paragraphs, but it hit like a delayed punch I didn't see coming. Mallory's ex, a name I hadn't heard in years, reached out after hearing through mutual friends what had happened between us. He said he debated contacting me, that it felt intrusive, but something in his gut told him I needed to know the truth. And what he shared, put everything into focus. He told me she did the same thing to him. Word for word. The sympathy campaign. The "you're too needy" narrative. The vanishing warmth. The growing shadows. The hidden life. She had emotionally and financially drained him before flipping the story and walking away like he was the villain. He even said, "She used me to recover from someone before me, and used you to recover from me." That line stayed with me for days. It made me realize something important. I was never broken. I was never too sensitive. I wasn't weak, clingy, or dull. I was just easy to blame because I stayed silent and kept showing up, hoping love alone would be enough to fix what was already shattered. That's not weakness. That's loyalty. And I finally learned that loyalty only matters when it's mutual. The next few weeks were quiet. I signed the divorce papers without fanfare. She didn't contest anything, maybe because she knew she had no ground left to stand on. My lawyer even said it was the smoothest case of a messy marriage he'd ever seen. I found peace in small things, learning how to make my own pasta from scratch, repainting my walls without asking someone else's opinion on color palettes, letting Moose sleep in my bed again, his head on my chest, as if he knew my heart was still healing. I didn't rush to date. I didn't go find myself in the mountains. I didn't post cryptic quotes or thirst traps online. I just started breathing again. And that, I think, is the most powerful thing we can do after being silenced. Breathe loudly. Exist fully. Reclaim the space we were told we didn't deserve. So here I am, months later, no longer wondering if I could have saved something that was never mine to fix. I finally sleep without checking my phone. I wake up excited for coffee instead of afraid of the silence. I've started writing again. Not emails, not apologies, not desperate texts, but stories, fiction, screenplays, things I abandoned while trying to hold a marriage together with duct tape and denial. And I'm okay. More than okay. I'm finally me, without the weight of someone else's lies pressing against my ribs. To anyone out there listening who's ever been made to feel small, unworthy, or invisible, you're not. You're not. Sometimes the smirk they leave you with is just the beginning of your story, not the end of theirs. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. And if you've made it this far, drop a comment below about the moment in this story that shocked you the most, or reminded you of something you've been through. I'd love to read your thoughts. This has been Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds its way out. Take care. Let me know if you'd like a version formatted for video narration, or a thumbnail/title idea for this story.